again, welcome back to another show. Today I'm going to talk about the Buster Keaton's Films Volume 2 from Massive Cinema. This is another collection. The third set in the collection is coming out on the day of this recording. So I'm waiting in the post to arrive with the third one. But the second one, you get the box, this lovely box obviously, with the picture of the Battling Butler. Which is ironic because that's the weakest film of the three. Yes, in the text in the front. You've got a lovely cover, and you get some discs. Three discs, each film in each one. Get some nice extras on it. Talking about Buster Keaton and his techniques and what he did and the rest of it. You get a nice little booklet. So yeah, great collection. I'm really looking forward to the new one coming through. I've read in a video on the first collection, and I've been watching some of his shorts as well recently because it's in another collection as well. But I'm going to talk about these three films. These three films are just wonderful. But the first two, Navigator and Seven Chances, are the better films. Battling Butler is a very good film, but it's kind of like it's up against two great films. So it's kind of fails slightly because it's a good film against great films rather than another great film. So The Navigator is probably the most famous of these three films. The Navigator is the story of this feckless idiot who is rich, played by Buster Keaton, obviously. And he has he plans to ask a woman to marry him who lives across the road. And this is from he's from one rich family. He doesn't have a clue how to survive. She's from another rich family. He walks over there. He's made the plans. He's bought the tickets for the cruise. He's done everything. Goes over there, asks her to marry him. She says no. So he goes to the cruise anyway. Unfortunately, because of some skullduggery, people change the letters. He goes to the wrong ship because he's told a certain number, port number what, and someone's changed the numbers in the ports. So he's going to this ship that they're going to let loose and float away and scupper because of some corporate skullduggery or some war. They wanted to. This ship's going to be sent to send ammunition to this war. They want to destroy the ship. Unfortunately, Keaton is stuck on the ship. Even worse for him, the potential bride who turned him down, her father owns the ship, so they go and investigate it. His father gets beaten up. She's on the ship as it gets scuppered and starts to float away, and she runs into Buster Keaton eventually, because we have this wonderful scene where they try to find each other. They notice someone else in the ship, and they're going round the ship, you know, missing each other, and they go almost throughout the entire ship missing each other because they're such fools. These two characters are utterly useless, and that's what's wonderful about them. They're just so spoiled, they don't have a clue what to do with anything. So they're in this ship and they have to try and learn to survive in this ship because they don't know, no one seems to be coming to rescue them, so they have to try and find a way to survive, which means opening up the food supplies and learning to work everything. Which at least this hilarious scene where Keaton's trying to open stuff up and he's making a total mess of it because he's a moron. And she's not much better, she's completely closed too. So you have these two idiots trying their best to eat basic provisions and failing horribly. Well, eventually they manage to eat, and they're on the ship, and even those basic stuff like setting up, find a place to sleep, or open a deck chair up, causes havoc for them because they're that dumb. But it's wonderful because Keaton knows how to get a gag working, and he has these two spoiled idiots who can't do the most simplest things. So it makes everything human and sad as these two people get a comeuppance, really, because they deserve this. They deserve it, and part of the joy is watching them get a comeuppance. But it's also really funny because Keaton's such a great gangster. He can figure stuff out over the most simple thing. He will figure a way out. Eventually, you know, they see another ship and they manage to, they put up a flag to try and get them know there's someone in the ship. Unfortunately, the flag is to say this is a ship, it's a doomed ship, do not come near. You know, like it's a plague ship basically. And Keaton tries to catch up with that other ship and end up in this little boat, and the boat just goes under, of course. Eventually they get near an island. The island, they run into something which starts to sink the ship. So they have to go to the ship and, you know, fill the hole. So Keaton has to go in this underwater gear. So you've got a lot of underwater guys with Keaton in this really clunky, you know, put 1,000 Leagues Under the Sea type get up. You know, it's just great. Then the Islanders, and the bit has not aged well, because Keaton was a man of his time, and stuff that he didn't think he did not think anything about now look kind of dodgy. You know, I mean, it's not like he comes across as racist. He just comes across as a man of his time who didn't really care either way. More than that than anything, doesn't really feel like he cares either way. So basically these natives come to try and steal the woman. He has to get the woman back. Then they go back to the ship and the natives attack the ship and they have to protect the ship and get off the ship and escape. Which they end up doing onto a submarine that's passing. You know, and that's the end of the film. But the whole thing of this thing is into gags. For a ship, they use the ship as a playground for Keaton's gags, where he just does, because he's so clueless, he gets everything wrong. But he gets better as he goes along. He tries. I mean, that's the thing about the character. He's trying. He is in love with the girl. He is trying his best to be a gentleman and to protect her. But he's just not good at anything. But as he goes on, he accidentally gets better at stuff and does slightly better and survives and helps them escape from these islanders who are cannibals who want to eat them. You know? It's just wonderful. I mean, basically the last section is basically Zulu on a ship of comedy. You know, it's just great. Navigator is just great. It's just so funny. You know, if you are not too sensitive about historical, weird, cultural things, you'll be fine. And it's just a cultural thing from the past, 100 years ago. What are they going to know? Right, now we have Seven Chances. Seven Chances is, it's just wonderful. I heard this was not one of Keaton's favourites, which is weird because I thought this was one of... It was based on a play that he didn't buy, his partner bought. So I don't think he was as keen because it was more verbal than anything else. And I don't think he was that keen on some of the setup. But he made it work for himself. And he just went crazy and crazy with the inventions as it went on. So it's just a great film. Basically what happens is he plays this guy who is very shy. Keaton's always plays a character who's very shy, who's not good with women, who he doesn't get women. He doesn't know how to talk to women. He's just clueless. So he's trying to get a woman interested in him. He goes up and talks to her, and there's a great gag at the beginning where he goes through all the different seasons, and he still didn't have the guts to ask her to marry him because he's so desperate but so terrible at it. Then it finds out his uncle has left him a lot of money and his company's going bankrupt at the time. So he has to, as long as he's married by a certain time later on in the day, he has to be married by this time. He's only got this one day to get married. So he has to ask this girl to marry him on that day. And he messes up spectacularly. He gets her interest, she says yes, and then when she finds out he needs to marry her by 7 that night, he explains it so badly she doesn't want anything to do with him. So he now has to find someone to marry him by 7 that night. So he goes to a country club and gets rejected again and again in a hilarious setup of joke after joke of him because Buster Keaton plays up how weedy and awful he is with women, it's like everyone's just laughing at him, and he does he does everything wrong you could possibly do when talking to women and asking them to marry you, you know, and it just becomes this joke of how bad he is at it. At the same time, the woman realises she's a bit tough on him. Maybe there was a reason, maybe she should talk to him. So she sends her manservant out to find him, tell him to come back and talk to her. And that guy takes forever to find him. By this point, Buster Keaton's business manager, who's also, you know, it's also his business that's going under, he puts it up in the paper, the evening paper, that this guy needs to be married by 7 o'clock. And all the women in town who are unmarried come out to claim him. So he ends up in a church with an army of women who all want to marry him. And he doesn't want to marry any of them. You know, because he's talked to the guy at this point and he's told him, I mean, at this point Buster Keaton is going around town asking people to marry him and failing horribly. I mean, he is going everywhere, he's embarrassed himself with gag after gag after gag of just pure embarrassment. And because Keaton's so good at it, he varies every gag so that even though it's the same joke, it's every possible permutation of a joke, paced wonderfully, so that you never feel that you're getting, you know, bored by anything. It's just like so well paced, you're always getting the good stuff with him getting rejected with woman after woman. Whether it be social reasons or he mistakes someone for a modelling doll, and that's a woman, you know. And then the most insensitive part of the film, he walks behind this woman, he sees her, then we walk beside and realise she's black, and says don't bother, which is really insensitive. But then again, Keaton in the Navigator, when he sees the ideal of a happy marriage, it's two black people. So I think I don't think he cared that much. He was just commenting, I think, in that one on the social norms of his character, this white guy, rich guy. He wouldn't do that. I don't think he was thinking that much. Which is what you have to try and remember, look at the whole thing in context rather than just the simple one or two things. So at least the most famous part of the film, with Keaton's getting chased, trying to get to his love while he's been chased by hundreds of women in their wedding dresses. And when they realise he's not going to marry them, they're out for blood. And I mean, they end up running through the city, running up to the hills. Keaton's having to almost fake his own death to try and escape them. It's like there's a cascade of rocks chasing at some point because he's trying to escape them, and he gets his landslide started and he's trying to run away from all these rocks falling him. It's just great. Eventually everyone works out fine, he ends up marrying a woman, but it's just a wonderful film. It's so funny. Finally, with the Battling Butler. This is the weakest film, but because it's too long basically. It's just a bit long. What happens is Keaton's this weakling who's rich. His father wants him to go out into the world and actually see what the world's made of. So him and his butler go camping. And of course, Keaton's spoiled rotten. There's this whole sequence with this tent which is full of everything. There's a bed in the tent and everything really for Keaton. So he still has his home comforts even though he's in the, you know, in the wastelands. Or he thinks it's a wasteland, it's basically just a countryside. And there's a great scene of him having his butler as his butler's spoiled and rotten. And he has to go and learn to shoot and things, and he's terrible at it. He meets this girl who he really likes, but she's a working class girl with her family who have no time for the rich, who believe you have to be able to protect yourself. So they have no time for him. Because he's the same name as the Battling Butler, the same surname, they mistake him for the boxer. So he plays along because he wants a girl, he wants to marry the girl. So he disappears for a week while going to see the fight and letting them think he's actually the Battling Butler. He goes back, marries the girl, then there's announced another fight, so he has to go act as if he's going to do the next fight even though he's not. Unfortunately, the girl follows him there, so he has to act as if he is the battling butler. Butler actually finds out, Butler, who's a total scumbag, terrible man, he finds out about what's happened, and he makes Keaton train for the fight. He said, no, you're going to fight this other guy. And so you have a whole sequence of Keaton training to be the fighter. And Keaton waiting on the day of the fight to fight this guy, terrified. Turns out that the butler actually fights the guy and he comes back and he's a winner. But he's going to beat up Keaton anyway for such a horrible thing. So that's when you realise how much of a bully this guy actually is. You've seen things before, but this is when you see he's a real bad one. And Keaton actually managed to beat him up at the end. Which is kind of, it kind of works the film, the nonsense of the film, but it's kind of ridiculous. The problem with this film is, it's too long. I've said before, it's too long. It's like, it's the longest in the set, and they don't cut it down as brutally as they have the other films, and sometimes you feel a lot longer here or there. The best thing about it is the relationship between Keaton and his butler. His butler's really droll and, you know, with all these expressions looking like this is a living nightmare for him dealing with Keaton. All of that stuff works beautifully. And all the stuff with Keaton in nature trying to look as if he knows what he's doing when he's terrible is great. It's just the actual plot dealing with the any of the plotting side is a bit duller. But any time like Keaton's trying to act as if he's a big man and going to extremes to hide the reality is fun. It's really funny. Keaton learning how to box is really funny because he's utterly useless and he can't even get into the ring properly, which leads to a lot of fun. The whole film's a lot of fun, it's just too long. It's like a 55 minutes film extended to about an hour 10, hour 15. And that's kind of the problem with the film is it slows down enough for you to notice the ridiculousness of it a bit too much. Which is never a problem in The Navigator or Seven Chances. You enjoy how ridiculous it is because they're exploring the weird possibilities of this silly notion. In this one, they'll let you wait and think about it too much. But it's still a really good film, it's still really enjoyable, it still puts most comedies to shame for inventiveness and how funny it is. It's not the same level as some of his other films. But that's fine. You don't deliver every film. So that's the Buster Keaton Volume 2. I highly recommend it. It's amazing, well worth the price, and I'm now eagerly awaiting Volume 3. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you later. Right, bye for now.